Hello, everybody, and welcome back to False Nine Footy. So, as you can tell by the title of this video, yeah, I think it's time. It's time for ETH to go at Man United, and I'm not a Manchester United fan, but I am a fan of the Premier League, and as an outsider looking in, it's just so sad to see, you know, what's going on at that club. I mean, it's honestly it's a mess. It's a mess if we're honest. Like they just lost 3-0 to Tottenham at Old Trafford off the back of a pretty disappointing performance midweek in the Champions League versus FC Twente. And before that, they drew with Crystal Palace, who played pretty terribly in the first half, and then the second half they grew into the game. Did Crystal Palace, but that was a winnable game for Manchester United, and tactically they didn't look that great, and that is mostly on the manager. And that match is interesting for me. Was interesting for me in particular because I thought for once Erik ten Hag pretty much got the lineup correct. Barring Eriksen, he started Bruno, Mainu, and Eriksen midfield. In midfield, I would have started Ugarte. They had Ugarte then, and yeah. So that for me was a game that really showcased how sort of tactically weak ETH is, in my opinion. But why I say it's time for ETH to finally leave, and I'm sure like Liverpool fans, I'm sure opposing fans would want ETH to stay, but I mean it's getting bad. It's getting really bad. And I want to highlight a couple points. Like I don't just want to say, I don't just want to say ETH out and not have anything to back it up. So I do have a couple points that I want to make. So the first thing I want to talk about is some of the signings he made during his tenure. I mean, he signed Mount, which for me, once I heard about him signing Mount, I was like, okay, you're signing Mount. And then I saw the amount, 55 million pounds. Like to me, that just doesn't make any sense. Like if you buy him for maybe 20 million pounds or 15 million, because you have Bruno Fernandes, you have Bruno Fernandes. It's like you don't need, he's not even really gonna start, and you're paying 55 million pounds for a backup attacking midfielder. It's like there are other areas of the squad that needed strengthening, and that was the transfer window that McAllister went to Liverpool. So McAllister at the time was he went to Liverpool a little bit before Mount went to United, but it was the same transfer window. So they could have, if they acted early enough, if they made a good enough offer, could have possibly acquired McAllister or other options. But I want to make clear that they had Bruno Fernandes. Like an attacking midfielder wasn't really an area of the squad that required strengthening. And obviously he signed Antony for 82 million pounds. Like just saying that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Like you don't pay 82 million pounds for a guy that's, I mean, he's relatively unproven at the highest level. I know a lot of good players come out of the Eredivisie, but like he was relatively unproven. Like it's not one of the top league. It's maybe a top 8, top 7 league, but it's not like the Premier League. It's not like Serie A. It's not like La Liga. You have to prove yourself a lot of times in these leagues. You can't be paying 82 million for someone that's pretty unproven at the highest level. Now he was a prospect, but still, it's for me. It was just an outrageous amount to pay for someone that, it wasn't going to guarantee goal. Like for me, that price tag is reserved for like top. Like I remember, like Gareth Bale went for like 80 million. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, like that 80 million plus is reserved for world class players, in my opinion. Like not players like Anthony, not players like Harry Maguire. Not players like not players like you know what I mean. Players that haven't really done anything at the top level, that are just kind of based on their potential. So, and then Onana, he's been all right. He's sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not so good. He bought him for around 47 million pounds. I mean, they had De Gea, so like, yeah, De Gea made quite a few mistakes here and there, but again, 47 million for a goalkeeper. It's like there are other areas of the squad that still need strengthening to this day. It's like, and that's another thing I want to highlight. Like in the summer transfer window, this summer, 2024, he didn't buy a left back, which was an area of the squad that absolutely needs bolstering, that needs reinforcement, because Luke Shaw, you cannot rely on Luke Shaw to be healthy, because he's out for extended periods of time almost every season. And if he comes back this season, I hope he's healthy. I hope he stays healthy. But at this moment in time, you cannot rely on him to stay healthy. So you need a left back. Why are Man United still operating without a left back? Like, you had all transfer window. Ten Hag had all the summer transfer window to buy a left back, and he didn't. You got guys like Bradley Locko of Stade Brestois. He's a good player. Stade Brestois are in the Champions League this year. He's a reason why. He's a good option. He's gonna develop. Like, he's young too. You can develop him into a better player, which I think he's got loads of potential. You got Ait-Nouri at Wolves. If you wanted him, you got Kadiolu, who went to Brighton, but he was an option. Again, you had to prioritize this position because you just didn't have anybody. So it's like you have to pay what you have to pay. And I'm not saying go out and pay 50 million just for the heck of it, but identify a target, right? Like Maatsen. Maatsen went to Aston Villa. Maybe you should have prioritized Maatsen. Prioritized a left back. Like, left back was absolutely a position that needed strengthening at this club. And for whatever reason, he decided not to buy one. And now they're without a left back for no reason. Just because he just didn't want to spend the money, or just didn't want to buy a left back for whatever reason, even though they needed one. Okay, he didn't buy a left back. A right winger. Ahmad. Ahmad is great. He's still young. He's unproven, relatively speaking. He's got good potential, but you don't really know. He's going to be inconsistent, right? He's still learning the trade, right? You needed a right winger. Okay. Plenty of right wingers out there. Trincao. Mohamed Kudus would have been an amazing signing. But I think, you got Kudus. You got Olise. I know Olise went to Bayern Munich, but again, if you're making these priority targets, maybe you get them over a Bayern Munich. Now, I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but you have to try, right? Olise, Pedro Neto went to Chelsea. Could have been a huge, would have been amazing if Man United signed Pedro Neto. Ademola Lookman, he plays mostly on the left, but again, a terrific winger, in my opinion. You can put him on the right. He'd be fine, more than fine, in my opinion, because he's such a good player. Like, he's creative, he's fast, he's great. Ademola Lookman. Marcus Edwards of Sporting. They're playing so well, Sporting. You could have gone after Marcus Edwards or Trincao at Sporting, right? Johan Bakayoko. PSV, he's a little young. I mean, he's 19, but loads of potential. Could have gone after him. Mason Greenwood. You know, Getafe. He had a decent season at Getafe last season on loan. You decide to sell him. Look at him at Marseille. He's playing exceptionally well at Marseille. And just all of these players these are options. These are guys you could have gone after. And for whatever reason, now you only have Ahmad on the right wing. Antony is not even a real option anymore because at this point, you paid 80. I just can't even fathom that. You paid 82 million pounds, British pounds, not American dollars. 82 million pounds for Antony, who at this point is just, I mean, he's a bust. You know, and maybe you don't want to bring in a right winger because you want to try and, maybe ETH doesn't want to bring a right winger in because he wants to try and make Antony work, even though it hasn't worked for like 2 seasons and it doesn't look like it's going to work. So I don't know. Like, he didn't sign a right winger, didn't sign a left back. Center midfield. In the midfield, you have Bruno, you have Menu, you have Ugarte. 3 options. Mason Mount isn't a real option in my opinion. Never really rated him. You paid 55 million for him for whatever reason. Never rate him. Don't rate him right now, and probably won't rate him in the future. He's not a real option. Casemiro, I mean, you know, he's a shadow of himself. Let's be honest. He's older now, so maybe you could use him for like Carabao Cup games, like league games against like Everton, things like that. But I mean, Eriksen, Eriksen was, for me, I loved watching Eriksen in his prime, you know, but again, he's another player that, for me, you can't rely on him. You know, he's old, and he's just not the same player he was, you know, and I really, really liked Eriksen when he was in his prime, but as someone that was a fan of him, and I look at him now, he's not the same guy, he's not the same player. So really, in terms of serious midfield options, you have Bruno, you have Menu, and you have Ugarte. That's 3. So you needed other central midfielders, right? And I'll name a few. You could have gone after Khéphren Thuram, right, who's going to be a superb player. Could have gone after Kone from Mönchengladbach, who's now on Roma, solid midfielder. Could have gone after Koopmeiners, and now he's with Juventus as well. Could have gone after Zubimendi. You know, I know ETH bought Ugarte, but in my opinion, Zubimendi is a better option. He's a better passer. He's more like a Rodri type. I'm not saying he's Rodri, but he's in that kind of mold. Can control a midfield. So there were plenty of options that he could have explored in terms of getting central midfielders, you know, a right winger, a left back, and striker. Like, he went after Xerxes. You know, I don't mind Xerxes. You know, I didn't mind that signing. Højlund, he's all right, but I mean, Gyökeres. You know, Gyökeres could have been an option, but I mean, striker. It's not a position that really needed too much strengthening, so there's nothing really to complain about there, in my opinion. But I want to also highlight, you know, his tactics. You know, he's been at Man United for around 2 years. I'm pretty sure it's around 2 years. And Man United still don't really have a clear style of play. And if he says they have a clear style of play, like I would want him to explain it to me, because to me it's kind of all over the place, you know. Like it really is. And tactically, you just watch Man United. They're tactically, like, the players sometimes don't know what the plan is. They don't really know what the next pass is. They don't really know what the plan is often when they're out there. And it's like teams like Man City, teams like Real Madrid, but mostly Man City, Arsenal. These teams have a plan. They know where everybody's going to be on the pitch. So passing, they don't have to wait an extra second to think about where somebody is. They know somebody's going to get there or going to be there for a pass, to make a run, etc. Right? They have a clear style of play. They have a plan. Good teams have those plans. Good teams play that way. And Manchester United simply don't. And also his substitutions, his lineups are often incorrect. Like it's sometimes it's when you see a Man United lineup that kind of like looks like it should be the right one, you're often surprised because you're like, wow, he kind of got it right this time in terms of lineups. But then if he gets the lineup correct, sometimes like he gets the tactics wrong. So it's like you never really know what you're going to get from Ten Hag. Most of the time the lineups are incorrect and the tactics are also faulty. Sometimes the lineups are good and then the tactics are still a mess. So for me, I think it's time. And I think, again, as I said before, I'm not a Manchester United fan, but I mean, it's just from the outside looking in, it's really a mess. And I'm obviously like, it's funny. I watch Goldbridge a lot, and he says, you know, he's mostly Ten Hag in, but I know he can understand Ten Hag outers. For me, like, it's just this can't go on any longer. Like, not all of the blame has to be dumped upon Ten Hag, because again, there are players like Marcus Rashford. Like the manager doesn't pay the players, right? The manager is the one that sets the wages for the players, right? It's the club, it's the management. So like you have Marcus Rashford making $350K a week. Why on earth is Marcus Rashford making $350K a week? Like, again, those types of salaries are reserved for Cristiano Ronaldo, for Messi, for Neymar, for Bale, for really, really top-class players. Not for Marcus Rashford, who had one good season, right, where he was scoring all those goals. One. Before that, I mean, you saw glimpses, but he was never consistent. All of a sudden, you have one good season. Boom, you get paid. And now it looks like he doesn't know what he's doing out there, right? So you're paying him $350K. You know, and buying these older players like Casemiro. Like Casemiro was, I think, 31 when they bought him. Again, older player on the tail end of his career, paying him massive wages. For what reason? Same with Varane. And I know Varane is a little bit younger than Casemiro, like 29. I think he was like 28, 29 when they bought him. But had a track record of injuries. And on him, he's on massive wages. So just these signings that are like these signings and the signing of players on massive wages, to me, it just the culture at Man United has to change, really. I do think it's time for Ten Hag to step down. I think it's time for him to either step down or for the board to say that, you know, enough is enough and let him go. Now, who could they sign? I mean, there are a couple options. You got Julian Nagelsmann. I know he's coaching Germany right now, but he would be a great option if you could somehow convince him to coach Man United. You've got, there were a couple options in the summer. There was Thiago Motta, who's now at Juventus. There's, but right now, there's another option that I don't know if people would consider, but Cesc Fabregas. Like, he's at Como right now. He's kind of learning his trade, but he's another one of these Spanish midfielders that was class when he was playing. That's a coach, and that I believe will be a great coach. Like, you look at those Spanish midfielders. You look at Xabi Alonso, who's doing a terrific job at Leverkusen. You look at Arteta, who wasn't really like a Fabregas or like an Alonso, but he's doing a terrific job. Guardiola, again, was a Spanish midfielder, played for Barcelona, did well there, and is an amazing coach. And I believe Fabregas will also be that. So you could go Fabregas. You've got Ruud van Nistelrooy already there. If you want to see how he does, they could do that. But personally, I would go Nagelsmann. Like, if they could somehow get Nagelsmann, that would be terrific. You could go, as I said before, Fabregas. You can go, maybe Ruben Amorim. He's coaching Sporting right now. He's doing a terrific job with them. That's a good shout in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But there are options out there. But the most important thing is they get this right. They get this next manager right. They make the right selection, and hopefully the players buy in, because it's obvious to see right now that the players are just like Ten Hag. He's lost the dressing room, in my opinion. He's lost the players, and for me, yeah, this is the end. And so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I do think it's time for Ten Hag to go. But again, there have to be massive changes at the club. The culture has to change, and the culture has to change for things to change, and for Man United to, for them, hopefully get back to competing in the top 4 and to making Champions League year in and year out. So we'll see what happens. But that's been me. That's been False Nine Footy, and I'll see you next time.